Good day everyone, I am Rome Andrew Agustin and I will be the presenter to this topic, Hellenic civilization. Today, I will discuss this topic. First is the government and politics. Ancient Hellas produced the independent city-states called polis. The Greek word polis means city, and from it, we derive our present term, politics. Another political Greek term which we use today is metropolis, which means mother city. To the Greek, any city which founded other cities became a mother city with the name metropolis. Today, the term metropolis is applied to the capital city of a nation. At the same time, Greece also evolved other forms of government, such as monarchy, the ruling of a king, aristocracy, the rule of noble families, oligarchy, the rule of the few, dictatorship or tyranny, the rule of an illegal ruler, and democracy, the rule of the people. In fact, certain political writings of Greek philosophers contributed to the science of government, notably the Republic by Plato and Politics by Aristotle. Proceed to the religion. Religion, the ancient Greeks believed in numerous gods and goddesses who were supposed to possess supernatural powers because ancient Greek theology was polytheistic, based on the assumption that there were many gods and goddesses, as well as a range of lesser supernatural beings of various types. The Greeks believed that deities live on Mount Olympus and behave like ordinary mortals. Among these deities were Zeus, chief of God, Lord of heaven; Hera, wife of Zeus and goddess of heaven; Phoebus, son of God and god of light, music, and prophecy; Poseidon, god of the sea; Hermes, god of commerce and messenger of the gods; Hephaestus, god of fire and blacksmith of the gods; Ares, god of war; Athena, goddess of wisdom; Aphrodite, goddess of beauty and love; Artemis, goddess of the moon and the hand; Demeter, goddess of agriculture and fertility; and Hestia, goddess of the heart and home. Next, the music. The Greek developed music of sonorous beauty. The first musician to sing Homeric verses to the accompaniment of the lyre was Terpander. He also originated the idea of professionalizing music. Thus arose a professional musician. Grecian music was mainly vocal until the 4th century of the BC. The ancient Greeks thought music was of divine origin. The gods and muses were connected with music, and some even invented musical instrument. The lyre by Hermes or Apollo, the simple flute by Athena, and the shepherd flute by Pan. The Greeks cultivated music at a very early epoch. Next is the architecture. The highest embodiment of Hellenic art was in architecture. Ruins of elegant temples and edifices can be seen in Athens, Thebes, Corinth, and other cities. In fact, the three architectural styles selected by Greece were the Ionian, Doric, and Corinthian. The Ionic order originated in the mid-6th century on the island of Ionia and was characterized by tall, slender, proportioned, and detailed columns. Buildings including the temples, theaters, and stadiums were popularly designed using the iconic order. Iconic columns were unique and more detailed than previous Doric works. The second is Doric. Doric style columns were typically placed close together, often without bases, with concave curves sculpted into the shafts. Doric columns capitals were plain with a rounded section at the bottom, which is the echinus, and a square at the top, which is abacus. The last one is Corinthian. The Corinthian order is the last developed and most ornate of the three principal classical orders of ancient Greek architecture and Roman architecture. The word Corinthian describes an ornate column style developed in the ancient Greece and classified as one of the classical order of architecture. The Corinthian style is more complex and elaborate than the earlier Doric and Ionic orders. Next is the sculpture. The oldest relics of Greek sculpture are the relief carvings seen on the temple ruins of Great Mycenae and Tiryns. Greek sculpture reached its perfection in the 5th century BC. The greatest Greek sculpture was Phidias. Two of his masterpieces were the statue of Athena in the Parthenon and the statue of Zeus in Olympia. Other Greek sculptors were Myron, famous for his work Discobulus or Discus Thrower. Chares, who made the Colossus of Rhodes, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Sculpture also is the asset or has a role to the Greek civilization. Last is the poetry. The earliest specimen of Greek poetry were the Iliad and the Odyssey by the blind poet Homer. The Greek developed lyric poetry, which is intended to be recited to accompaniment of the lyre. The greatest lyric poet of ancient Greece was Pindar. Another famous lyric poet was Bacchylides of Zeus, Pindar of contemporary. The greatest poetess ever produced by Greece was Sappho. Sappho, whom Plato called the 10th muse. In fact, tragedy dealt with the big themes of love, loss, pride, the abuse of power, and the fraught relationship between men and gods. Typically, the main protagonist of a tragedy commits some terrible crime without realizing how foolish and arrogant he has been. In fact, poetry, a term derived from the Greek word poiesis or making, also called verse. Poetry is a form of literature that uses aesthetic and often rhythmic qualities of language, such as phonaesthetics, sound symbolism, and meter, to evoke meaning in addition to or in a place of prosaic, ostensible meaning. Poetry also has a significant role to the Greek civilization. And to call the next presenter, may I call on Miss Ruby Elca to continue this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Agustin, for introducing me. Good day, everyone. I am Ruby Lyka Elca, and I am the next presenter of Hellenic civilization. Theater. The drama, as a literary art, developed in ancient Hellas. It originated as a choral ode which was presented in the honor of Dionysus. So, Dionysus was the god of wine during the Athenian festival, and they first introduced the dancing of the chorus and wearing of the actor of the grotesque costume. Then, later, the dialogue was born. So, the first Greek dramatist was Aeschylus, and his masterpiece was Prometheus Bound. Aeschylus called as the father of the Greek tragedy. And his masterpiece, Prometheus Bound, is the story of Prometheus who was bound to a rock by Zeus for giving the fire to the mortal on earth. And the next Greek dramatist was Sophocles, and his masterpiece was Antigone. And Antigone introduced the third actor in the stage. And the third Greek dramatist was Euripides, and Euripides introduced the love interest in drama, and he was also called as the dramatist of the people, and he was the most pathetic of the Greek tragedians. So Aristotle called him as the most tragic of the poets. Let's proceed to the history of Hellenic civilization. The first famous historian in ancient Greece was Herodotus, and his masterpiece was the history of Persian War. So Herodotus traveled in Asia and Africa and talked to many people just to gather materials and information for his works. And he was acclaimed as the father of the history. After Herodotus, Thucydides arose. So, Thucydides' masterpiece was the history of Peloponnesian War. And he was a more scientific historian and being careful with his facts. But his works are mostly colorless and dry. And the third famous historian was Xenophon, and his masterpiece was Anabis and Memorabilia. So, Xenophon was the student of Socrates and a soldier, and his work, Anabis, is a story of the famous march of 10,000 Greeks from Babylonian to the Black Sea, while the Memorabilia is a story of his teacher, Socrates. So, let's proceed to the oratory. So, oratory attained its perfection in Greece, and the first teacher of oratory was Corax of Syracuse, and he was the first man in the history to make a living by teaching of public speaking. So, the great Greek orator was Demosthenes, the prince of Greek orators. So, he rose to fame as an orator in a series of Philippics directed against Philip of Macedonia. And in these orations, he unleashed the fury of his eloquence against the Macedonian invader of Athens. So, let's proceed to philosophy. The first Greek school was founded by Thales of Miletus, the father of Greek philosophy. And another philosopher was Anaximenes, Pythagoras, Parmenides, and Heraclitus. So, Thales taught that the universe originated from water, while Anaximenes taught that the universe is originated from air. And Pythagoras popularized the doctrine of number, which states that certain number are lucky, especially 3, 5, and 7. And of course, Parmenides taught that the universe is eternal and unchanging, while on the other hand, Heraclitus believed that the universe is always changing. So, in the 5th century BC, a group of philosophers called Sophists flourished in Athens. Two of leading Sophists were Protagoras and Gorgias. So, they presented the skeptics who viewed the current beliefs of their times with disbelief. So, Protagoras thought that the man is the measure of all things, while Gorgias thought that nothing exists. If anything does exist, it cannot be known. And we all know that the most famous Greek philosopher was Socrates, and his favorite maxim was, know thyself. And his best pupil was Plato. So, we all know that Socrates was the master of all Socratic dialectic, that is reasoning by question and answer. And his teaching are preserved in the dialogues written by his pupil, Plato. So, Plato, from a rich and noble family, surpassed Socrates, and his masterpiece was the Republic. And he is also a teacher, and his best pupil was Aristotle. So, Plato was a student of Socrates, and his masterpiece, the Republic, portrays an ideal state. So, Aristotle was a versatile genius. He was the tutor of Alexander the Great. More than a great philosopher, Aristotle was also a learned political scientist, an ethical teacher, scientist, and mathematician. So, medicine. Medicine developed as a science in ancient Greece. The greatest Greek physician was Hippocrates, and he was acclaimed as the father of medicine. So, until today, modern doctors are taking the Hippocratic oath when they graduated from their studies. So, Hippocratic oath was the physician pledged to prescribe only beneficial treatment according to his ability and judgment. So, in conclusion, Greek achievements in arts and science, government, literature, and philosophy enriched Roman civilization and that of mankind. Thus, we can say that the glory that was Greece lives forever in the cultural heritage of mankind. To end our presentation, let me read you this quote. You have to know the past to understand the present, by Carl Sagan. So that's all. Thank you for listening.